tell you for a fact, okay, that at least 3% of those people are going to buy a $10 to $15,000 program. Even a slight bump, we're talking about several $100,000, right? Like I had one agency, they literally thought like, well, the business is, because the partners, they kind of lost interest in the business. One got more, interested in commercial real estate. So the business was kind of like dropping, right? And they were shocked when I got them a sale for over 7-figure, to the point where like they're calling all their buddies, say, man, like, look, if you're selling, you need to like take a serious look. You may not think this is worth that much, but because a lot of folks, I've literally had Facebook threads that say anybody's buying anybody that's anybody could tell you they can sell an agency is a scam, because I don't enjoy running this agency, and who would buy this thing? Well, that's because that person's burnt out, right?
Yeah.
But if they're sitting on a business, got maybe 50, 100 customers or something, it's worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
So what we do is we identify areas that we can emphasize to the buyer, hidden profit centers that, while it may not increase the value of the business, it makes it easier for the buyer to say yes. So let me clarify the point I just made there. So it's not so abstract. We're representing one agency, right? Over the years, they've had, give or take, 3,700 customers. It's almost a $3 million sale. The buyer is a private buyer, so this is a very large amount of, it's a large amount of money for anybody, but it's a stretch for them. And say, man, like, this is really gonna like stretch me. I don't know if this is. I said, well, here, I'll tell you what. So I walked them through and said, look, you see these 3,700 buyers? Said, yeah. Well, many of those have bought a $5,000 product. This is a training / agency. They do training. They also agency services. And they bought like a $5,000 product. Yeah, I could tell you for a fact, okay, that at least 3% of those people are going to buy a $10,000 to $15,000 program. I'll even walk you through how to do it. Now, if you want us to do it, we'll do that as a separate fee, but I'll walk you through how to do that. So right there, that wasn't necessarily for the seller, but I helped the buyer saying, hey, yes, this is a big purchase, but just doing this couple of tech things that Alex is going to talk about, I can recoup back between $400,000 to $500,000 conservatively within the next 90 days. So it made them a lot more comfortable to pay top dollar for this thing, because they're paying top dollar for this thing, but the entire time they're nervous as hell they're going to get their money back. The deal may never happen.
Yeah.
You see, so even though I represent the seller, I get paid by the seller at closing. I also work with the buyer to help them understand that, hey, these are some ways you can recoup the thing. You could cross-sell your services. You could combine the forces, all kinds of different things so that it makes sense. Because a lot of times the buyer, unless they're very sophisticated, they're just seeing a bunch of spreadsheets. They're like, okay, well, I'm going to pay X dollar for this thing. If at this current run rate, it's going to take me however long. I said, well, yeah, but there's all these profit centers that you can accelerate that payback period. Yeah. So it reduces down the risk for them tremendously, to the point where, they'll make a decision a lot faster. Because trust me, if a buyer's like nervous, they're going to take forever to make a decision, because it's probably their biggest decision they made, especially if they're a private buyer on their side, right? So we figure out, like, we help people by helping them get up to speed on the psychology of the acquirer, right? Like knowing what to emphasize depending on what type of profile they are. The other things, we help to identify, hidden profit centers, so that way the buyer can make a decision faster, or more peace of mind. So they're going to come to the table, come to the closing table a lot faster. The other one is we can help also, depending on the business being represented, we can then also, help identify difference between financial buyer and strategic buyer. Financial buyers are more want to buy more on numbers. Strategic buyer are more like, well, you have some capability that's very strategic or expansion. They're going to pay a premium. Those are a lot harder to find. And I'm not saying we could always find out for everyone our client, but they'll pay a much, much higher thing. So there's like, and then the fourth one is really just understanding this process, right? Because while it is true that similar like selling a house, it's also significantly more complex. Here's what I mean. You've done real estate, Frankie. So in real estate, when you get an offer, unless they're just kind of, like they're just completely like, it's like, like they have, they're a little bit, kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? Unless they're just, kind of like a one-off. Most of the time when people make an offer, the offer goes through, right? Why do I bring that up? Because when I'm working with a seller the first time, if they don't understand the process, They used to say, well, how hard can it be, right? I'll just advertise this thing. I'll do this on my part-time, it's just kind of on the side, right? I'll get a bunch of offers. Let's just pick the right one. Ta-da, right? I said, well, yeah, I guess in a way that's true, but you just left out 95% of the real story, right? Because there's like back and forth, right? Like just because you got an offer, then you got to figure, okay, well, is that offer solid or not? And also, is that offer, what is it backed by? Like, where's the funding source? All this other stuff. Because unlike real estate, funding the acquisition of business is a little bit trickier than funding the, the purchase of real estate. Real estate is a very well-known asset class. Business as a whole is a little bit more complicated. So the buyer may actually think the thing is going to get approved. And then there's times I have to step in and tell the buyers, like, your funding is not solid. Oh, but they, no. This is what you were told by your lending source. I can tell you for a fact, this doesn't happen. And so my point is that I'm educating the buyer as well, too. You see? Or sometimes even a professional investor will say, hey, why is this thing a premium? Like, because we're used to buying this. Yeah, you've been looking at another asset class. Like you've been looking at brick and mortar company. Agencies are valued differently because of recurring income. You see? So that's why I was kind of joking earlier. A lot of brokers, unfortunately, again, I'm making a very broad statement, they just list the thing. They don't really understand all these nuances I'm talking about. Yeah. I've owned my own company. I've sold companies. I've bought companies. I've been an advisor for almost 30 years. So I can pretty much almost not predict, but anticipate where things are going to happen proactively, right? And by the way, it's very easy for these things to get stuck forever. It's called deal fatigue. Yeah. Meaning the deal just wears everybody out, and the deal it just quietly kind of like just dies. Yeah. Not like in an explosion, but it just kind of quickly just loses momentum. It's just kind of like a train track ran out of gas. It just kind of dies a little bit.
Same thing happens.
4 months later, people are like, what the hell happened? Deal fatigue.
Hey guys, if you like this video, you'll probably also like our free Facebook group, Beyond Agency Profits, Agency Lifestyle Design. You can get free copies of the book inside here. I look ridiculous. We're doing weekly Q&As, giving answers to all your questions. Some of the best, smartest, brightest people. We've got lots of industry leaders doing 7, 8 figures and beyond. It's a literal who's who of the brightest agency owners that I know, as well as lots of tips on scaling and stuff, books that work. So if you're not already part of it, you're going to want to be part of it. So make sure to click the link. I put it in the description of the video as well as in the pinned top comment below. So just scroll down and you can join, and it's totally free.